And Webster is the member for Mallee, and it's a pretty challenging situation in the northwest of Victoria. People are staying afloat, I hope.
Look, they are, as far as I'm aware. I know there are threats of houses going under, which is deeply concerning, and levies being built and levies being requested. I know I've been talking with the ICC and Jacqueline Symes' office, as well as Murray Watt, over the last few weeks. Just, whenever anyone contacts me and says they're not getting anywhere, I'll step up and, even though it's state managed and local, of course, and SES, just another voice in the mix to say, look, we need to really look at this, or can you contact someone about this particular issue? Because there's nothing worse than fear and the anxiety of having your home flooded or not being able to get to work for 2 or 3 weeks is really deeply disruptive.
And I noticed you made some social media commentary. It's always nice to pick these up when they happen, that Murray Watt's office has been pretty constructive and helpful when you've reached out.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And I've got to give him credit for that. Not every minister calls you back. And, I understand that he's busy. I understand there are floods all over the eastern seaboard and into the, further inland. So there's a lot of work to be done, but progress must be made on recovery once we're through this. But look, honestly, it could be another month or two before we're really at the stage where proper recovery can be made. There's no point repairing kilometres, hundreds of kilometres of bitumen when floodwater hasn't actually finished going through yet.
Yeah, I noticed in Mildura they're still working on the levees, and now some road closures are about to happen. So I guess you mentioned that earlier, councils were reaching out for work on the levees. Had they been calling out for that assistance for some time in the months and years prior and been heard nothing, and then it sort of, as the emergency developed, suddenly the earthworks were happening?
Look, down in Maryborough, Central Goldfields is one place that I know the Carisbrook levee has been an issue, and we've funded a significant amount of money down there to get that levee completed. And I went down to a Carisbrook public meeting where people were pretty cross and cranky, understandably, that the levee hadn't been thoroughly finished. However, it was managed. And look, I think, these things are complex, they're unknown. Some are known and need to be planned for. But, for example, in Donald, the Donald community put a levee at a street because there was no levee there. And so they just built one. And jolly good thing, because when I was there, the water was right up nearly to the top of it.
Well, I think your National Party's Victorian leader, even his own electoral promotional bags, his tote bags, were grabbed as sandbags to help in the local area, people grabbing what they could.
Well, it's nice to know they're useful. That's great.
A little bit of promotion for the effort of the National, supporting levies and sandbags in the process.
Yeah, why not? I don't know who thought of that one, but I've just got to give a shout out to Globo Rotor Moulding, who have also put together polymer funnels so that people can more easily and quickly, efficiently fill sandbags and move on. And if you've got a cement mixer pouring the sand, it's even quicker. So not everybody has that access, but the funnels are definitely available, and I've urged every council to reach out and grab some because they're being donated by Kelvin at Globo Rotor Moulding.
Excellent work. Look, that's the local electorate stuff that's always incredibly important, particularly at times like this, but the work went on in Canberra last week in terms of estimates, and interestingly, while we're talking about flooding, it's still the work of the Murray-Darling Basin Plan and making sure we've got enough water to go down the river.
Yeah, look, it remains, and I guess always will remain, a topic of contention. And the 450 GL under the socio-economic assessment criteria is not under discussion at this point in time, but the Minister, Plibersek, has stated that she is in agreement with the basin states, calling for the 46 GL of surface water and 3 GL of groundwater to be brought back as a matter of priority under the program or the target, Bridging the Gap. So those buybacks are not in Victoria. They are in the Condamine Balone in Queensland, the Barwon-Darling, the border rivers, the Namoy, Lachlan and Murray Valleys in New South Wales and ACT. I think the point needs to be made, though, Ricky, that buybacks hurt regional communities. It leaves a patchwork quilt of land that can be used and irrigated and that which cannot. And it's just not we are absolutely not in favour of buybacks. There are other ways in which to gain that water back, whether it's water infrastructure projects, which we absolutely endorse. And I just would urge the government to rethink their plan.
We spoke with the New South Wales Irrigators Council late last week. She was, Claire Miller, the CEO, was a little sort of philosophical about this blank chequebook, as we've called it, that the government was given during the federal budget for buyback. She thought it might also go to efficiency measures, and hopefully with the amount of water going down the basin, we may have a little bit of cause for pause. I know there was a push to pause the plan and maybe not rush so hard into a 2024 deadline.
Oh, look, we were prepared to give a bit of grace to that period for those efficiency measures in New South Wales who were lagging behind. But it would seem that the Labor government is not so keen. And you're right. What is the cost? Nobody knows. It's all, so much for transparency in government. We have no idea how much these buybacks are going to be to the taxpayer, because it's the taxpayer that pays.
Yeah, it certainly is. Now, someone who has been paying, I guess, collectively as farmers when it comes to labour shortages and this dilemma of getting workers in from overseas when you just can't get Australians to do the work, especially in a tight labour market. There's been a glimmer of hope, at least, that one deal the Nationals and Liberals did in coalition for importing workers might be respected by the Labor government.
Yeah, absolutely. The ag visa, of course, was something that I had a lot of involvement in pushing and driving with David Littleproud. It was part of the UK trade agreement that the Liberal Party would accept that we need an ag visa, and Vietnam was the first country to sign up to the MOU. It did not get completed, which I'm disappointed about, frankly, prior to the election. However, Labor have said that they will keep it on the table. That is good news. I mean, at the moment, we have the PALM scheme, and, it works in certain industries, as we know, but they have only brought in 10,800 workers on the PALM scheme, and I believe there are only about 40,000 that are even possible. We currently have a need for 172,000. So, it's not going to come from the Pacific Islands. And I'm on the committee, I'm the Deputy Chair for the Immigration Committee, looking at bringing workers into Australia. So we're about to start a public inquiry on that. And I have pushed pretty hard for it not to be just about skilled workforce. It really concerns me that Labor's focus is on bringing in a skilled workforce. Yes, we need some skilled people because we don't have as many as we actually need, but we also need unskilled and semi-skilled. So we've broadened the scope of the public inquiry now to be workers. So it can be unskilled, semi-skilled and skilled. And I think that's the way it needs to be. And I would deeply love to see more Asian countries part of that ag visa. That was certainly our intention. And we'll see how we progress, how quickly or slowly the Labor Party moves on this.
Well, it seems that Labor's commentary on this, while sort of there was a veneer of concern about exploitation of workers, it was really about the labour market and the view that, Australian workers should get this work. Maybe there was an opportunity they saw for a unionised workforce. We've seen union ideology, I guess, at the forefront in the last sitting week of Parliament on industrial relations.
Do you think? Oh, my Lord, it has been phenomenal. I think there is so much commentary out in this last week on this. Even today, the Australian Resources and Energy Employer Association CEO Steve Knott said these IR laws, industry relations laws, are not about jobs and wage increases, which is what Labor is spruiking, of course. They are about union power and union revenue and ALP donations. Well said is all I can say. And absolutely it is. Julian Leeser, the Shadow Attorney General, said that the Labor government has the three biggest donors to the Labor Party are unions, industry super funds and class action law firms. And so the industrial relations laws that they're trying to ram through government right now as Innes Willock says are fatally flawed. Labor itself made 150 amendments before it shoved it through the lower house. It was extraordinary. We were sitting in the chamber pretty well for a day and a half going through amendment after amendment after amendment. Obviously, we made many amendments which fundamentally weren't accepted, and the crossbench as well. So Labor have given just a few weeks to scrutinise a 250-page bill with an additional 260-page explanatory memorandum. The Senate is rushing through 2 more days of committee hearing looking at it. And the concern is that it will not assist with wage growth. You can't increase wages if you're not increasing productivity. It's something the Labor government just does not understand. It is by increasing productivity that we can increase wages. If you go for multi-employer bargaining, industry-wide, what we will see is small businesses all across Mallee, all across Australia, close. So we will increase our unemployment rate and, maybe there'll be some farm jobs come out of this. It's just a disaster.
And it just seems to me that Labor's just settling accounts with some of those big backers, the unions in this, and really to hell with the consequences, especially in regional Australia.
Well, I mean, the report that the Leader of the Opposition, Peter Dutton, gave in the House the other day was that $100 million has been donated to the Labor Party through those union entities since 2007. $100 million. Surely that gives the average Australian cause to pause, as you said.
Absolutely. Well, we've got to keep moving. Anne Webster, thanks so much for joining us with an update on how the sitting week went in federal parliament and, importantly, the flooding impacts in the electorate of Mallee. Thanks again for joining us.
Thanks, Ricky.